Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you how you can have focus modes automatically quiet notifications when you're busy. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So focus modes, also known as Do Not Disturb, are useful when you want to have notifications stop while you're doing something important, like giving a presentation, doing an online meeting, or maybe playing a game. Now you can turn on focus modes by going to the Control Center here, and then there's Focus. And if you click it, it'll show you the focus modes that you have available, and then you can select one to turn it on. That, of course, is if you remember to do this. The problem is we often forget to turn on Do Not Disturb before we're doing something like an online presentation, and even more common than that is we forget to turn it off when we're done. But fortunately you can set focus modes to go on and turn off automatically under certain conditions, like depending upon which app you are actually using. So go to System Settings in Ventura, though you can do the same thing using System Preferences in Monterey. It's just going to look a lot different. Then once you're here in System Settings, go to Focus. Now you're going to see the focus modes you have, and you could add more. Let's create a new one. Well, let's say this is a focus mode that we want to use when we're giving a presentation. So I'll select Custom and I'll call this one Presentation. And then I can pick an icon if I want. So maybe something like this and a color and OK. And then the next thing we want to do is maybe select what is allowed to happen. Now probably during a presentation you want nothing, but if you want to allow certain people to be able to contact you and you'll see those notifications, you can. You can also allow certain apps to send you notifications if you want. And in Focus Filters here at the bottom you can click Add Filter, and you can even get down to the level of specific calendars in the Calendar app, specific email accounts, and messages, conversations, and even tab groups in Safari that are visible. But let's say you want absolutely no notifications while you're giving a presentation. So now the problem is, how do you remember to turn on this focus mode just before you start your presentation? Well, you don't have to. Say you give your presentations using Keynote. You can click here to Add Schedule. Now you would think Add Schedule, that's got nothing to do with automatically figuring out when you're using Keynote. But in fact, there are 3 different functions in here. Time, which makes sense for the schedule part, but you could also do location and by app. So location would actually use your GPS location, like for instance figuring out where you are according to your Wi-Fi network so you can tell whether you're at work or at home. App though is just going to look at which app is running in the foreground. So you can select this and then you can search for an app. So you could say Keynote. When I'm using Keynote, I want this focus mode to turn on. So now let's close System Settings and give this a try. I'm going to run Keynote and look what happens when I launch it. If you look at the upper right hand corner, you'll see a notification telling you that presentation mode is on. And sure enough, if I go into Control Center here and I look in the focus modes, I can see presentation mode there. And you can see that I'm in some focus mode because the time and date here are grayed out. If you want to get rid of that, by the way, and not have it be grayed out, you can always drag this into the menu bar. And when you do, the time is no longer the indicator for the focus mode. Instead you have a separate icon here. So now I can click here on the icon and I can see that presentation mode is on. And that of course is because I'm running Keynote. Now what if I were to quit Keynote? You'll see that the presentation mode goes off. And sure enough, if I look here at the icon, you can see it changes to the default Do Not Disturb icon, but grayed out, showing me that none of the modes are in use. Now I can still switch this mode on manually by selecting it here. And I could select it for an hour or until this evening. And I can of course turn it off manually as well. So let's say I go into Keynote and you can see how it turns it on. But I'm actually just working on the presentation. So I want to turn this off now. So I will. And you can see it will obey my manual command there. And I'll get my notifications in while I'm working by myself on my presentation. So you could also set this up for multiple apps. So let's add a new focus here. I'll say Online Meeting. And then I'll set this up with an icon like that and a color. And now I've got this. Now I'm going to go to Set Schedule here, go to App, and I'm going to look for Zoom. I'm going to add that. But sometimes I also do meetings using FaceTime. So I'm going to select another one, select that, and now you can see I've got both. So now when either of these is at the front, it will automatically turn on. And when I'm done with my meeting, say I quit the Zoom app, it will automatically turn the focus mode off. And this might be a good example of where you want to allow some people or some apps. Like for instance, you may want to still get notifications from your coworkers while you're in a meeting so somebody can send you a message through a back channel. Another thing to note here is this setting, share across devices. When you use this, anything you set up here in your Mac is also going to work on your other devices using your same Apple ID. So your iPad and your iPhone would obey these as well. So if you go into a Zoom meeting on your Mac, your iPhone will also use the online meeting focus mode. So it'll silence the calls and messages there while you're in that meeting. Now there is an order of precedence to these. So for instance, if you were to add a focus and then for that focus set a schedule, say have it turn on at 9 a.m. and go off at 5 p.m., that focus mode would go on at that time. But then if you were to use an app to say trigger your online meeting mode, that would turn on. As soon as you quit that app, it would go back to this mode here. There are also a couple of special triggers you can use. The special gaming mode actually works with the wireless controller. So if you have a game controller, when that's connected, then it will go into this gaming focus mode if you have it enabled. You can click here and turn that off if you want. In sleep mode will work with the sleep function on your iPhone. So if you have sleep set up on your iPhone and you're using share across devices here, then you'll go into sleep mode not just in your iPhone but also here on your Mac. The system isn't perfect. For instance, I showed you how you could just be using Keynote to edit your presentation instead of actually using it. Or perhaps you forget to quit Zoom when the meeting is over. So you still got to kind of pay attention to what focus mode you're in. But this should at least cut down on the number of times you are not in a focus mode and you should be, or you're in the wrong focus mode. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.